Starting over. All right, welcome to Leadership Academy, number 6. And I forgot to start the recording. I got pretty intense on things, but anyway, we're sitting here with our mentors and our leaders, and what I was talking about is how 2019 depends on everybody. You know, since we came out here, we had the pilot doing very, very well, developing layers around us and getting more badasses around us as well. And now we're in a position where we need more leadership and we need more champions. And so the thing I want you to know is that 2019 depends on you. The thing I want you to know is that Cutco Through College needs to be the hashtag. Everybody's doing it, right? This is the cool place to work. This is the best place to get experience and make a ton of money. And we need to make sure that we're giving and equipping our people with the necessary confidence that they can also run an office. And I think that's been the major problem. A lot of them don't have that confidence, right? Because we haven't exactly had all the success that we've needed in the past and things like that. If you can text John Giacchino and see where he's at, that would be great too. So here's the deal, right? Our 2019 opportunity is going to be immediately squashed if we don't find more levels of leaders. And I want to be very clear about that, okay? So are you constantly hunting for more managers? Are you constantly looking for more people up and coming? Are you constantly promoting the branch and the district opportunity? I want to tell you a very quick story. Many of you have heard it, but for myself, I started and in 3 years opened up my district office after being a pilot and running a branch, right? And being an assistant manager. Okay, there's another girl, and she started literally at the end of November. And when she started, right, her name was Lauren Bing, and she only had, right, a total of 5 months to get trained to open up her first district office. And when I say she started, I mean started as a rep. Okay, that summer, I sold $330,000. In that first 8 months, we did $440,000 as a veteran, right? You know what she did? $540,000. She beat my office by $100,000, and she had only 5 months in Vector before opening up a district. So I think that the biggest bottleneck to our development right now is us. We are the problem. We are the issue. We are the people that are not believing in the individuals that we're recruiting every day, and we're not telling them about what the freaking opportunity is. Does that make sense? And we need to start. If you've been around my office, every interview, I'm talking about branch and district. If you're in my training, branch and district. If you're in a PC with me, branch and district. I'm constantly promoting what the next level is. And it's one thing to get a lot of recruits. I'm glad that we impacted well over 900 lives this year. But what I want to talk about is how we're going to level up. We're not going to get to $4 million with just us. I think that we can, but it's not going to happen next year. Does that make sense? So to get to 4 million, we need more leaders. We need more we need more branches. We need more districts. We need more territories filled. And my number one responsibility as a division manager is to fill the division. And here's the problem. If we don't fill the division in 2019, Lloyd is going to take away part of the division. And he's already had that conversation with me. He's like, hey, how do you like Northwest Arkansas? Good. Well, I hope you like it enough to fill it, because if you don't, it'll be going to somebody else. Those types of conversations already happened. If you didn't know this, Amarillo is supposed to be part of our division. Now, because there was no manager out here, Amarillo is swinging to, right, Rocky Mountain. And they're going to keep it for now. But once we fill all our other divisions, guess what? Or all our other territories, Rocky Mountain, right, gives Amarillo back. So if we want to get to the $5 million, the $6 million plus mark like we all want to, right, because that's where we're all making an incredible amount of money, we need to find more managers, right? So the question you need to write down is this, right? Do you see people as branch and district managers? And when I ask that question, I mean, do you see them as that immediately? Most of you in here right now would not have been promoted if I didn't see you as having the potential to what? Open up an office, right? So what's the question? Have you ever considered blank? Hey, have you ever thought about leadership? Have you ever thought about advancement? Have you ever thought about this, right? And it's not just management, guys. It's also the events team. You know, we've communicated enough about how much they're growing, but the question is, have you ever thought about doing Cutco Through College? Have you ever thought about moving into our events team? Have you ever thought about being able to advance in that level? Because a lot of times, if you get them confident with their sales, they'll be confident in doing anything else. What's one of the number one reasons that people start to leave the job? Because they either don't feel like they have enough names on their list, or they don't feel like they're making enough money, or that they can, right? So what does that mean? It means that means we're not believing in them enough. We're not equipping them with the tools. It's a responsibility and a duty as a leader to believe in your people. And you've probably heard this quote before, that sometimes you have to believe in the belief that others have in you in order to start believing in yourself, right? How much belief and conviction do you have that if people just follow our programs, right, with our coaching and our advice and mentorship, they can succeed? Does that make sense? That's what we need, and we need that coming from the very top right now, because 2019 is a phenomenal opportunity, and I believe in all of us, right? But at this point, here's who we've got. We've got Bailey opening up a district office, and that is our only district manager promotion. We've got Ayame taking over the pilot right now, assuming she keeps doing the right things, and she's been doing a phenomenal job with some sales lately, right? Okay, and then we've got Anna as our only branch manager going out right now, okay? And then we've got Arham and John Giacchino going out as 2 other branch managers. So ultimately, if you take away the pilot promotion, we have 4 offices going out. That means we have more offices open than new offices we're promoting. That's a problem. Are you guys with me on this? Okay. So what does that mean? It means that we're not just recruiting for Jan program right now. We're not just recruiting so we can win PV. We're recruiting, and we're intentionally recruiting and promoting what's possible. Okay, there's something called a RAM meeting, Rapidly Advancing Manager, and I am willing to run that as many times as I need to get people caught up on their Leadership Academy assignments, their understanding, right, and moving forward. But the difference of somebody's success really is not the training, guys. It's the hands-on skills and the hands-on, right, actual learning that they do in their office. Right? It's forcing them to actually run the interview. It's teaching them how to do things properly. It's not cutting corners. So when I think about what we're about to cover for the next hour and a half in this Leadership Academy, all about training, we need to understand that everything that's a problem or has been a problem after training is self-created, right? It's us cutting corners in those training programs. Does that make sense? So if we stop cutting corners, by the way, then we stop teaching other people how to cut corners. And you probably remember this quote, right? People are only going to do half or double what you do. In other words, right? And that's from what book? Anybody know? That book I gave every one of you during the summer that I asked you to read called Freedom from Fear. Okay? That one. Yeah. Right? And what he says is that people are going to do half of what you do. So if you sell 1,000 a rep, right, or an assistant manager, then reps think it's cool to sell 500. But if you're 5 minutes late to a meeting, then they think it's okay to be what? 10 minutes late to a meeting. So if you're going to cut corners on things like confirmation calls or proctoring the video training, and by the way, video training is not the training. Video training is a tool that we enhance our training with. I want to be very clear about that difference. This is not the training, right, when we're playing these videos. No, this is just another resource that we use to enhance it. And it's a multimedia source. And I noticed the big difference, right? When you're actually engaged and they're presently running training, you, number one, don't lose people. They don't walk out on you. Number two, they show up every day and they get a sample kit. Number three, they actually book healthy demos, even if they're not that quality, right? We've already talked about prejudging people and the amount of business we've lost this year. You guys with me on that? Okay, so not cutting corners. Those people are so much more engaged. They have so much more conviction and deep-rooted belief in the fact that they can do the job. And guess what? They're so much more willing to do it right. So today's message is really important for every one of us that's running training and running an office. We need to be doing this stuff right. Does that make sense? We need to start understanding that as we recruit these people and we launch these next 2 groups, we need to get all of the new recruits to what? What's the big conference coming up?
Yeah.
Year-end banquet. Because we get them there and they see those promotions. Sure, they didn't get promoted on stage, but as you know, year after year after year, when we go to summer kickoff that happens in April right before the PV trip, we always do the last-minute late promotions there. And of course, it's not as sexy and perfect, but you know what? They were at the year-end banquet. They got the content out of it anyway. And probably the reason that they're choosing to open after year-end banquet was because what? They went to year-end banquet. Everybody with me on that? Okay. So we need to be recruiting managers. That is our job. We need to be recruiting leaders, and we need to be hungry to go out there and find them. We're not going to collect those people. And if you do, you're lucky. You've got to go out there and create those recruits. You've got to go out there and find those recruits. And that's why we should be so intentional about getting people's best 5 friends, getting them in for interviews. That's why we should be so hungry about not backing down when people give us an rejection. Oh, everybody got a job. I don't care. Like, that makes no difference to me. That's not the way I'd say it, right? Oh, you got a job, so what? Like, that's not what I'm saying on the phone. But the point is that it doesn't matter if they already have a job. It doesn't matter if they're out of state for school. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Those are all circumstances. Right? James Bernard Shaw says people that are successful don't accept their circumstances, right? They decide on the circumstances they want and they go out there and find them. And if they can't find them, they make them. That's the definition of a great leader. And that's the definition of what I want our Great Plains division to be about. And we need to level up that that's going to happen. Does that make sense? So it's not just about PV and how we start. It's not just about the winter break. It's not just about your recruiting and everything like that. This is not a short-term focus. Please don't have tunnel vision. I need you to be the person that has the long-term vision, that's thinking about how do we get every territory filled? Maybe not this year, but next year. And you know what? Even if Lloyd doesn't take our territories away, you know what's going to happen? He's going to start to fill it with other people's managers. And not only, right, we get their CPO credit, because it's sold here, but we don't get paid off of that. We don't get the development bonuses. We don't get any of that. Yeah. Yeah. Rudy came in here and I got the CPO, but I got none of the payoff of that because it didn't come out of here. Does that make sense? So do you want to see places, right, in our division filled up by managers that are coming from GCK and from Rocky Mountain and from Rising Sun and from Lone Star and Texoma? Or do you want to make sure that we have our own identity and our own freaking people, right? That we're getting paid off of all those development bonuses. We're getting the cash and the cut, right? And we're enhancing us. Because if we don't fill our territories, somebody else will. And I know that I'm the leader and I'm the person responsible for all that, but I can't do it alone. And that's what's been happening over the last 2 years. It's been filled up by the pilot development every year, right? In order for us to level up as an organization, we need to level up our leadership. We need to attract a lot more leaders. Everybody with me on that? So today's meeting is very important. And it's kind of cool that we don't have like some of the other layers in here and some of the new assistant managers, because we can be raw and we can be real. And we're going to go through scripts, and we're going to play a video about proctoring training properly. We're going to talk about training some of our best practices and some first week in pop. All right. And then we're going to dive back in at 1 o'clock. We've got a 30-minute phone jam blitz where it's going to be all about PRs and phone switch and getting a lot of people set up. And what I'm going to ask you to do during that time is for all of you to help and help each other, right? If one office has more people, another office doesn't, but you should be the person that's doing phone switch, getting those into Vector Live. And I've got a goal that in 30 minutes, we're going to schedule 10 PRs. We're going to show you how powerful that phone switch can really be. And then you can start to enhance, right, your advanced trainings and your meetings and your PCs by doing that exact skill. Everybody with me on that? That's where, honestly, we attract our highest quality kids year after year. All right? So let's go ahead and dive in. Cool? First thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about confirmation calls and the importance of doing them right. Lately, here's what I'm seeing. A lot of us on GroupMe, we're going out there, we're posting out on GroupMe. We're saying 5 confirmed, 6 confirmed, whatever the number is, and then literally 50% of who we say we have confirmed are showing up the next day. Yes or yes. Okay? What that means is you did not have them confirmed. A legitimate confirmation is where you are 99% certain that unless something crazy happens that you have no control over, they are showing up tomorrow and they're showing up prepared. They're showing up with the right amount of names. They're showing up with confidence and excitement and enthusiasm. Sure, a little bit of nervousness and anxiety, right? They're showing up properly. Does that make sense? And when they're showing up, they're also ready to freaking finish training. Nobody shows up to training planning to quit. Why would they show up in the first place, right? So clearly, when we say we have people confirmed, what that's communicating to me is that you've talked to them. Right? That's the definition of confirmed right now in our division. That is not confirmed, right? We are not paying attention to their energy, right, versus their words. What I mean by that is, hey, so I'm just giving you a couple reminders about training tomorrow. Oh, okay. That doesn't tell me that somebody has the energy and enthusiasm to come in tomorrow, right? Yeah, I'm so fired up. How many names do you have on your list? Oh, like a lot. Sweet, great. Well, I'm glad you have a lot, right? We're not being intentional about the questions we're asking. We're not being specific about what we expect out of them and setting those expectations properly, right? And also not being afraid to ask the tough questions. If they don't give us the response in the way that we would normally accept a response, right, or they give us an energy that we're not paying attention to, we should be looking at that energy and saying, hey, by the way, I just want to ask real quick, how do your parents feel about the job? Well, they really just don't like it that much. Oh, okay. Well, what don't they like about it? And now we're opening up that door versus waiting for them to, because they don't have the confidence to. People are going to tell you what you want to hear. You guys do it to me. It's not a stab in the back. It's just the truth, right? Or you've done it before, told me what I wanted to hear before. And why is that? Because the moment you place a title on somebody, right, there's immediately a distance and a little bit of fear. Everybody with me on that? So you need to be the person who is popping those fear bubbles. You're opening those extra doors. You're being the person who's getting them confident. And I don't think there's anybody in our division better than Claire Beckman to be able to talk about the importance of proper training confirmation calls. She's been trained by Drew Frank, right? She's done a lot of that experience there, and where she's going to be going through the scripts and telling some stories. And, just so we're clear, the reason I asked her to do this is because Claire this summer made all of her own confirmation calls for the big trainings. And Claire also recruited, right, the most amount of people that showed up to training. She had over a 50% show for the entire summer. If you haven't looked at her stats, check them out. Okay. And she's not the one running a training. She's the one who's running our interviews, building up the trainer, right? And then doing her own training confirmation to also get people to show up, right? So clearly she knows what she's doing. Sound cool? So I would not just look at the script and ask yourself, oh, do I know this? Have I done this before? I would look at the script and say, what's different between what she's teaching and what I'm doing? And take detailed, specific notes, and then be intentional about that. Some of us are doing training confirmation calls on our drive home right now from the office. That's not okay. Does that make sense? We put so much money, time, and energy and effort into getting them just to even be able to say, yes, I'd like to try the program. Everybody with me on that? And then we're going to let something as simple as a 2, 3, 5-minute phone call go ahead and, right, be the reason that they don't end up showing up, right? That's not okay. And so it's our responsibility to change that. Everybody with me on it? Cool. So I'm going to pass out the script. We're going to bring Claire up with a big round of applause. Come on up to the front of the room. I also want to say, some of you don't know this, but Claire's made the decision to pursue school instead of going branch. We're completely okay with that, and we're very proud of all the amount of intensity and energy that she's delivered. But this will probably be her last message at the Leadership Academy for us, and I know she's got a million other things on her plate. She chose to carve time out of her day to be here with us. So thank you. We really appreciate it. Let's make sure we give her our attention, no doubt. So there you go. If you need one for you, and for everybody else. Yeah. I'll keep you on time as well.
Perfect.
You can take your 15. Probably get it done in 10 though, but it's up to you.
So I came up with like 6 tips. I was thinking about what I did differently and kind of what I've changed throughout the years with confirmation calls. And like the big thing that I think I do want to talk about is when you're doing confirmation calls, by the time you hang up, you know if they're coming or not, kind of how Nick just said, like you should know just by the way that they respond and stuff. And confirmation calls, I think aside next to like the post interview and all of that, confirmation calls are one of the most important things that you can do. So it should be, you know, something where you give time to do it and you're really focused on just that, nothing else. So making sure like on Thursday night, you have that in your schedule to do.
So be present.
Yes, be present. So first tip that I have is have the application of the person you're calling right in front of you. And before you call them, just like, hopefully you're the person that interviewed them, but if you're not, maybe talk to the person that did interview them. But look through and look at the notes. Like make sure that you are taking notes during the interview on the application, but that should already be done. So, but when you're looking at their application, see what the reason that you accepted them for was. So were they like athletic, were they smart, those reasons. And then when you are calling them, you're going to have that right on the like fresh part of your mind, on your mind. So number 2 is energy. So +2 energy at all times. So that's just the +2 rule. Whatever their energy level is, just 2. So if they're super excited, you need to be really excited. But if they're not and they're sounding just super monotone, don't be overly excited because that will sound really weird and it will also sound kind of scripted too. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that before. So just be excited, have positive energy, and bring that through the phone. Like when you're phoning for demos, it's kind of the same exact thing. Number 3 is the script. So the script has everything you need on it, but it is a little bit cluttered sometimes. So I stopped using the script. You should still use the script, but I just like highlighted the things that I wanted to make sure I didn't forget because I was just focusing way too much on the script itself. So it was sounding really scripted when I was talking to people. And so I went through and I was like, okay, what are like the main things I need to make sure I don't forget? And then I always just had it in front of me when I needed it. But I don't think like this is the one thing where it's just really the only thing about the call is your energy level and the questions that you ask. So script is important, but if you're focusing on those 2 things, the call's gonna be great. So smile when you read the script, or just smile the whole time. Your face should be hurting when you're talking to these people because they can really hear your smile through the phone. And then number 4 is questions. So some questions are like, are you excited? That's a great question. It's a yes or no answer question because then after that you have to build on top of it. So if they say no, then that gives you the perfect chance to ask them, oh, well, what are you not excited about? Like, what can I help you with? But most of the time they're going to say yes, no matter what they're feeling, because they just want to tell you what you want to hear. So ask them what they're looking for to most. And then that's the question that will lead into the rest of the call. So if you ask them what they're looking for to most and they're like, I don't know. If they say, I don't know, then like you need to work really hard on getting them to know what they're excited about, reminding them why they said yes and why they agreed to go into the training. And that will kind of map out everything else that you say next. So have you started thinking about a goal that you want to go after too? That's a great question. In the post, if you're like telling them about branch and management opportunities or 10K fast starters, if you know you have a high flyer, tell them about the fast start, bring them into the training room and after the post and like show them everything. So when you're on the call with them, you can remind them about all of that. Have you started thinking about some goals? And then normally they ask you, oh, I don't know, like what goals? And you're like, yeah, so, how we talked about fast start. Have you started thinking about what you want to go after? I know it's kind of early to know that, but if they know, if they're already like, yeah, well, I want to go after making $2,000 of income, this, and this, it's going to be awesome for you because then they're going to show up if they have their goals already planned. And then number 5 is the names list. So this is super important. This is how you know like who's really committed to. So build up the names list. This like you want them to come to training with more than 5 names. Like if they come in with 5, they're not going to be feeling too good. So normally when you ask them how many names do you have on your list so far, they're going to say like 5. That's a low flyer. So if someone says 5, don't say, okay, cool. Like, do you think you can get to 10? Awesome. All right, cool. Well, make sure you get here at this time. See ya. Like, that's the worst way to do a call is just like going through the motions, I guess. But you want to be so detailed. The call should be like 10 minutes, like 8 minutes minimum, but like it should really just be a conversation. So with the names, if it is a low flyer, if they do have like a 1 or 2 star on their application, ask them like how do you feel about getting to 15 or 20? And then if they could say like, yeah, I could do that, great. And then just name drop things for them. So, oh cool. So think about like your teachers, your family, cousins. Don't forget we have a virtual demo, so you can do demos for people out of state. If you just say those like simple little thought joggers for them, they're gonna think about like 10 more people like right on the spot. High flyers will typically say like they only have 15 or 20 names on their list. And so that's where you're like, heck yeah, man, thanks for working on that. In advance, how do you feel about getting up to 40 or 50? And don't forget, if you get to 50, you win the veggie peeler. Remind them about the veggie peeler, even for low flyers, remind them. But the high flyers, if you get them to get to 50 names on the list, they're going to have at least like a $3,500 fast start. So that's where it's benefiting you and it's benefiting them because you don't want them to come to training with 5 names on their list and then they want to leave at the end of the day because they don't feel confident in how many names they have. So names list is really important. And then the last one is arrival for number 6. So make sure that you're like telling them to get to the office early and then add on another thing. So typically what I've said before is like, so John, there's going to be a few things that you need to fill out when you get here to the office tomorrow. And I don't know what time training starts, so this isn't exact. But we're going to start right at 10:30 in the morning tomorrow. So can you be here at 10 a.m.? That way you can fill out some of the info, and then you can also get to know some of the other people in training and some of the managers. And then they're going to say, yeah, I think I can get there at like 10:15. Great, cool. So I'm writing that down in my schedule. I'll make sure that like I'm looking out for you when you get here. And then they like instantly feel like obligated to come now. So even though they probably were coming at that point anyway, but it just adds in another thing like, oh, Claire is going to be looking for me when I get there to sign me in. So it's just accountability, I guess. So those are like the main tips that I have with training confirmation calls. It's what I've been doing. I think the main thing that you just need to remember is make sure you're present when you're making the calls. And just know the importance of it because this can increase your show to training by 10 to 15% if you're like really focusing on it. And the script's great. It has everything that you need on it. And then even like sending text too, that is like the next step. Send them a text to like maybe if they don't answer, if you don't get a hold of everyone, send them a text, which Bailey has a great one. You can ask it from him, but send them the text and then calling them again after. So it's just like double tapping and like making sure that training that's on their mind they're going to be thinking about it all the time. So that's training confirmation calls, and that's all I have.
Good. Does anybody have any questions or any comments for Claire, or maybe
how to handle a certain scenario or how to handle a situation. Obviously, one of the things that I would recommend doing is role-playing the script once before you actually jump into confirmation calls, especially for the big dance program, right? Because it's been a while, maybe a few weeks since you've done it. So any questions for her about any of that stuff? What was number one?
I do have a question. Whenever you said, we asked them, what are you excited for? And they say, I don't know. And you said, try to find something. Like, how do you approach that? Like, how do you?
I make it a joke. Like, I'm just a sarcastic person, so I'll be like, you don't know what you're excited about? Come on. I remember in the post you were saying this, this, and this. Like, if you have that, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I know that. Like, and that would just be like, they'll be contradicting themselves if they say, no, I don't know. Like, so it will just remind them of that emotion that they have. It's just psychological.
Cool. Great question. Any others? Okay, good. Another thing that I'd recommend thinking about is this. As much as I love that we mark them 1, 2, or 3 stars in the system, I also don't like that we mark them that way, because when you make the confirmation call, almost automatically you become biased as towards who you're calling.
Right.
And in the summer, you also become busy, which is normal, but then you get to the point where the ones just don't matter. And I got to tell you that if you hired somebody, they matter. True. I'm sorry, but if you are willing to give them the opportunity to come into this job, then they matter just as much as any other person that you've got in there. So here's the difference. When you label somebody a 1, 2, or 3 star, what are you really doing? You're really reminding yourself who are your top quality people that are going to be there for the key staff holdback, and are going to be people that you're having conversations about immediately with what? Advancement opportunities and management. Everybody with me on that? But that does not mean that you treat them any different. If you have a 1 star and you chose to give that person an opportunity with this job, they get the same amount of treatment, the same amount of respect, the same amount of excitement as the 3 star does. Because you know how many people that I've had be 1 stars when they started and end up running offices and end up advancing into management and FSM positions? In fact, I would be willing to bet that if we look back at what we were when we got accepted and we were in that interview, I don't think that there's very many 3 stars in here. I'm not saying you're not a 3 star in my book now. I'm just saying when you showed up and the way you showed up, I guarantee you that we ain't all 3 stars here. Everybody with me on that? So that's just one thing that I wanted to add to her message, is the fact that mindset is far more important than just the skill set. It's the fact that you accept that if you gave them the job, you're going to treat them with that energy and that confidence and that experience that you've had, and you're going to speak it into existence about how excited you are to have them in. And I don't know about you, but I am excited to have them in, because I'm not excited about sitting there with 1 or 2 people for an entire 2 days. We've all had that experience. I'm not excited about having nobody show to my training. I'm not excited about not building my business, right? So it's mindset, guys, when you go into these things, that you can actually sense the confidence and the certainty, through your voice, right? Of the fact that they will be the people that can work here and really do big things with you. Everybody with me on that? Cool. So let's give Claire one more clap. 1, 2, 3. So great job on that, and we are fired up for it. I'm going to play video right now. And many of you right now with this video should have watched this before, but maybe not. So what we're going to be talking about, hold on. All right, here we are. I want you to write down a website, tinyurl.com/Proctor Manual Walkthrough. So tinyurl.com/Proctor Manual Walkthrough. Everybody good on that?
Say it one more time.
tinyurl.com/Proctor. What did I say? Proctor what? Manual walkthrough.
All right, let's talk about video training. So I'm really, really excited about this program. As you know,
So this is going to be a little bit longer than we actually have time for, but we are going to talk about the training video walkthrough, and I want to make sure that we record this and we check it all out. So those of you that are on the Zoom, we're going to share my screen with this, and let's find Drew's face. There we go. And I will enlarge this. We're not going to watch the entire thing, but at least the training video walkthrough and the importance of it. It's going to walk you through the actual details. And during this time, I've got the actual newest update of the Leader's Guide to walk through as well. And this will give you all the pressure points. So this is going to be really, really important for all of us, right, as we're doing this. And, you know, some of us are making transitions, but you never know when we're going to need you to step up and possibly run a training or something, right? So it's a really good value for all of us. So we're going to dive in and let's make it happen. Here we go.
Our division has been on this program since last August. We've learned a lot through the process. We made a lot of mistakes. The learning curve was pretty long in the beginning. Now the learning curve is basically done. Some of you guys have run training for the first time and gotten unbelievable results. Big time pop, big time first weekend, first promotions, big fast starters. The first time that I ran video training, we had a 10K fast starter. It was the first time that we tested this program back in August of 2017. But we learned a lot. Your district managers, they, for a couple months tweaked and figured out what works, what doesn't work. And I want to review basically the best practices for video training. So on the first page, it talks about preparation. So confirmation calls, as we've mentioned earlier in the meeting, in my mind, is probably, if not the number one, the number two productivity tool for first weekend pop and fast start results. Training, regardless if it's live training or if it's video training, is 100% determined by how reps show up. The way they show up is important. So it's the post-screening of the interview and confirmation calls, for me, are the two biggest keys to my first weekend success. Of course, I'm going to talk about best 5 first weekend. Of course, I'm going to talk about going after 10, 15, 20 demos. But those things aren't possible. And those things can't be tangible for reps in training if they don't come into training with a solid list of names. So your post-screen of really walking through the names list assignment, telling them how important it is, giving examples, planting seeds, giving advice, that has to be done the right way. This is one of the reasons why you shouldn't have anybody run interviews for you as a branch manager or new DM. You should run all the interviews because you need to be in control of the names, this assignment, verbiage that you're projecting to your applicants and to your trainees. Same thing with confirmation calls. Confirmation calls have to be done the right way. Confirmation calls, there's two main keys to confirmation call. Build a great relationship and drive the names list. That's it. You want them showing up where they are excited to meet you, or excited to work with you, excited to go through training, and they have a lot of names on their list. So 30 plus is the key. Top prospects should be shooting for 50 to 100 names. We have an entire script on confirmation calls, on the exact verbiage. It starts off with basically, Maritza, how is your list going so far? And that way, however they respond, there's option A, B, C, how you react to that to drive that list and set the expectation. But you need people to come in with a lot of names. So confirmation calls and interview post-screen are key for PPR. I think that doubles, if you do a good job with that, doubles PPR off of that. That's the way that we guarantee $1,000 head first weekend in the pilot office. Our first weekend pop, our results did not change at all from live training to video training because we do such a good job with names and promotion. Okay. Office setup. There's a whole section on the Leader's Guide with office setup, the things that you want visually around, whether it's first promotion, first weekend, or bonus checks, or 10K fast start, or trophies, dirty 30. What do you want your reps to be looking at in training? You want them to be visually stimulated the entire time. So when you set up your office, think
Melissa
about,
and I talked about this. What are they looking at right in front of them? Does that make sense?
The top 10 for the week. That way they can say, I want to beat that person. I want to get ahead of my friends. So how many names and pictures and records and competitions can you put on the board that shows all the perks and the reason for them to be working harder? It has a whole list of supplies. So these are all things that you need prepped ready. A seamless and smooth training is about having all your materials and supplies set up. So if you have to, rummage for rope and leather when you're doing rope and leather cutting at the last minute, or you have to find copies. I want everything to be OCD, which means every copy, everything is set out the night before. My cutting boards with rope and leather. If it's the day before, after day one, getting ready for day two, I want to have my cutting boards with shears and pennies already set up for the next morning. Everything's set up and ready to go. So preparation really makes you look and feel like a professional trainer. Okay, all your copies has a list of all these things in here, everything from Fast Start PDI sheets to price list. I just did this yesterday, just revamped and reorganized all the drawers. I have one drawer for day one materials, one drawer for day two materials, and one drawer for advanced training materials. So advanced training is advanced training sign-in, the productivity planners, things like that, QPRs. So I have a drawer for each day of training for all the copies that I need. Everything is ready for me. I just pull it out and get it set. I don't want to be thinking during the summer. I want the summer to be 100% action. I don't want to think. I just want to do. Okay. Also the products, making sure that your Cutco is ready, your Fast Start displays, your peelers to peel carrots and petite carvers for rope and leather, and table knives, obviously. Name tags, sample knives for PR prizes. You want to be able to give these PR prizes on the spot. So I have a box of the sample knives that we call the shanks. So we give those out right on the spot. As soon as anybody who gives 100 names, I want to be able to give it to them right there. It's unbelievable the amount of times where somebody like Jacob will be the first one to finish the app. He gets his 100, and I do this big unveiling of the sample knife, and I show it, and we unsheath it. He's like, playing around with it, and everybody else is like, they're still on their app, like, that's cool. And then everybody's like, I got 100, I got 100, I got 100. That's the way you drive it, by giving out immediate prizes. So when you're running training, you've got to be prepared. Nothing can be last minute. You have to be totally focused with all your copies, your handouts, your supplies, your prizes. Everything needs to be set. Refreshments. What Athena and Caden have realized, and what we realized overall, is the number one difference between live training and video training. In fact, the only difference between live training and video training is rep engagement. And the number one key to running a great video training is keeping reps energy high and them involved the entire time. The training gives the content, but you drive the results. Now, if you don't have any snacks or refreshments or anything to keep the energy high, it's going to feel like watching a movie, right? And if they're watching a movie, you're not going to get good pop. You're not going to get good engagement. You got to be active. So Caden has candy and snacks and cases of water. You go to Sam's Club or Costco and you get a couple cases of water, you're golden. Everybody comes into training. They have water, or you can have a cooler with cups or whatever. But just like how awful would it be if you went into a training seminar for 6 hours and you didn't even have a cup of water or a bottle? Like, we don't think about those things sometimes because we're just go. But think about the little things, like having like the even like the mini like Snickers and Crunch bars, just having like a bowl of candy. You can have cases of Red Bull, whatever it is for you. You can make it however you want. You can have
walking around this room.
you can water. I'm like
grabbing one of
healthy
those snacks,
options.
and I'm
But if
just
you have
rolling
some
down
fruit, you have some candy and snacks, bottles of water, Gatorade, things like that.
It
costs you a couple bucks, right? Is it worth the investment?
Do this.
You spend a lot of time and energy recruiting people. You want to make sure that they're having an enjoyable training experience. So have snacks, have refreshments,
whatever you can
even
do to
things
keep
like pizza. We do pizza from the phone gym. If you have 4 reps in training, could you get away with ordering 1 pizza from Little Caesars and everybody getting 2 pieces? Sure. But spending the extra $5 and getting 2 pies and everybody stuffs their face and eats as much as they want, does that?
Another thing I would write down next to that section is timing.
The energy, and the
It's all about
excitement about
timing,
the
right?
gym.
Making sure that
It's
they're eating
$5,
during the right
right?
portion,
So
right?
I
Making sure that
over-order
you're doing
pizza.
the breaks
I
during the parts that
over-order
aren't as
bagels
important.
because if I have a kid that's hungry and if they don't have if they forgot to eat breakfast because they were working on phone calls or they were rushing or they overslept and they rushed to the office and then they're sitting there hungry through day 2 training, no. If they forgot their lunch, eat 3 bagels today.
Especially day 2.
refreshments and
By
snacks,
the way, we need to
whatever you
feed
can
more
do to
people
keep
on
the
day
energy
2.
up. It's really,
What I'm
really
noticing is on
important.
day 2,
Okay?
right around the PR name
It's
collection,
basically the
that
awesome
takes
boss
the
act.
rest of their
Right? Nobody
energy, their
expects free
KO,
stuff, but when
and
you
that's
get
when you
free
start to
food
get
from me
negative
or from
attitudes,
your
negative energies.
DM,
Plus,
you're
we're
like,
what,
this
an
guy's
hour or
cool, this
2 away
girl's cool.
from
going out to do something
So
really
awesome
scary.
boss factor. Relationships.
Agree with me on that?
Relationships are key
So
to
pay
training.
attention to energy. Pay attention
Relationships
to
are key to training.
enthusiasm. Pay
It's
attention
all
to
about
physiology.
creating
Are
great
people like this
connections
or
and
people like this?
establishing a coaching
Right?
relationship.
Are people like
This is
Dave or
especially
people like
important in
distracted?
video training because you're not the voice. Since Wes and I are the voice, your relationship has to be built on the front end. So that means that interview post screen, they've got to be really good connections. Okay, confirmation calls, really good connections. 5 to 10 minute call for confirmation call. It's not like, hey, you ready for training? Cool, see you tomorrow. Confirmation call has to be a great connection. And it's especially important to have people show up early. Everybody needs to be there at least 15 to 20 minutes early. So for the average rep,
By the way,
15 to
that's a
20 minutes
major
early.
issue for our
my
whole
best
division right
reps,
now.
I
Like
tell
we're
them
not even
30,
showing up early to
30
these meetings,
45
right? Where
minutes
there's
early for my
relationship
top
building and
reps.
stuff like that.
Because if
That
I'm
needs to
running
be
training, if my
needs to
best
stop.
people come in 30 to 45
Right?
minutes
Moving
early,
forward,
think about the
15 minutes
relationship
early,
that I
no matter
can
what's
build with them
everything for
going
reps.
into
30
training.
minutes
And if I spend
minimum early for
5 minutes
management,
with each rep
right?
or 10 minutes with each rep just getting to know them, finding out about their goals, their hot buttons, they fill out their welcome sheet and I'm asking about their favorite movies or where they want to go on vacation or, about their, sports or achievements or about college. That relationship allows me during the phone jam a couple hours later to say, hey, Jacob, I know you got big goals this summer. I'm going to expect 10 or more demos from you this weekend. 10 is a minimum, but do you think you could shoot for 15? He's going to say, I got you. Because
Do you see how he set that expectation right there?
If he showed up the exact minute that training starts, he has no
I
idea who I
expect
am.
you
He doesn't have
blank.
that trust or credibility. When later
Using
during the
their
phone jam,
name.
when I'm like, hey, phone, he's
Right?
going to resist.
And knowing why it's
So the
important to them
relationship
because
has
of
to
their
be
welcome
there.
sheet.
The trust
I use
has to
their
be there.
welcome sheet.
That
The
way
moment
you
they
can drive
finish it,
results.
give it
So
to me.
whether it's
I
with
get to make fun of
goals
you now.
or
I'm just kidding,
phoning
but hey,
or
let's get to know each other.
expectations for the phone jam that night or
The
coming
moment
in
they
early
finish,
the next
in
morning.
my hands,
It's
no
all
matter
about
what. In the
amount of time
summertime,
that you
I'm not
spend
back
with
there
that rep
introducing people
before
and
training,
getting
after
them
training,
signed in.
in between different
In
sections.
the summer, when we have our big groups, I'm at the
Those
front of
things
this
are
room
key.
30
So
minutes
early
early,
to
and I
training
don't
and
leave this
stay
spot.
in the
I've already
room.
peed. I've already
Video
got my
training
snacks.
is the
I'm sitting
voice.
here.
You control
I'm
the vibe,
connecting.
the
I'm
tempo, and the
high-fiving. I'm
activity.
getting to know people.
As a
I'm
trainer,
targeting mentally.
you
Who are my
in
10K
training
fast
with
starters?
them. You're guiding them through every
I
step
have
of the
assistants
process.
for all that
You
BS.
need to be more
Does that make
engaged
sense?
than they are. So you
Not
should
me.
memorize. You should have the training memorized by the end of the summer. So if I'm watching the training here,
Thank you.
literally
Yeah.
during training, I'm sitting here watching my own training. I'm laughing at my own jokes, and I am
You
making
watch
sure
this a
that they
lot,
know
huh?
that I am just as interested, just as intense. I'm taking notes too. I want to have my leaders guy with me, and I want to be taking notes the entire training. I'm taking notes of them, I'm taking notes of this. Sure, if I get a text from one of my reps that says they need help on a demo, I wouldn't do it during training because as soon as I walk out of the room, it tells my trainees that whatever they're watching right now is not as important. Not as important.
Right.
In fact, here's an example, and Gary's got great numbers from PR collection. He had said the first couple times he did video training during the PR talk, he went out to check on his other reps. He went to check on the interview, and he noticed that his name collection went way down just because he stepped out of the room for a few minutes. Because as soon as he stepped out of the room, what do you think everybody else did? Sat there, laid back, relaxed, like this movie's cool, right? So as soon as you leave the room, whatever's on the video is not as important. So the video basically saves your voice, so you have more voice to drive demos, be intense during the phone jam, and do great PDI throughout the weekend. But you're in it. You're the trainer, okay? So you've got to be in the room the whole time. Dig in during the role plays. How many impressions can you get with each rep? So during training, if I can walk around and if I can tap Christian on the shoulder and say, how you feeling? You're confident in this? You feel good about your best 5? How do you feel about your phone calls? The more I'm connecting with each rep throughout training, the more impressions that I make with each person, the more of the strength of the relationship is there. And that way I can drive their goals. And that relationship that you build in training, that continues for their entire career. Right? The relationship that Jacob built with Maz during training, that relationship, he still remembers. This is the same guy who believed in me in training. This is the same guy who worked extra hard to make sure that I had my demo set up, that talked to me at 10 o'clock at night after my no sale. Right? That is so crucial. All right. We feel good about that? And last thing on here with the relationship says PDI. A 10-minute impact conversation is mandatory, either the first night they launch or the next morning. That is... If you want to get $1,000 ahead first weekend, have a 10-minute phone call with every rep, either the first night they launch after one of their demos or at the end of the night, or the next morning before they start their demos. This is something that Daniel did a really good job with as an assistant. Why he had so many of his reps hit dirty 30 was because he would just spend time on the phone, and it had nothing to do with Cutco. It's just getting to know them. Hey, tell me about you. What are you interested in? What are your hobbies? What are your hot buttons? How can I manage you better? What are your goals? What's your future look like? That 10-minute conversation during the first weekend, that eliminates ghosting. If you have a 10-minute conversation with somebody the first night or the next morning, they're not going to not call you. They're not going to ignore your text messages. Why? Because you're somebody they can trust. You're somebody that that they know believes in them, wants to build a relationship. It's not about their sales and their success. Got it? Okay.
I mean, it's both ways. The one
So now training starts. That's all the preliminary stuff for training. Okay, this is the mental game.
The one's like, hey, by the way, I'm
If
here.
you have a large training group, is it beneficial to have one of your other reps come in and work the training group with you? All of our district managers, what their requirement is that if they have more than 5 people in training, they need to have an assistant manager helping work the room, because I want one person at the desk watching, because they need to see me watching the video too and be totally engaged. But I also want somebody working the room. So during the bigger trainings, it's going to be myself, and I'm going to have assistant managers kind of filtering in and out, just making sure everyone's okay. Say, hey, do you need some more water? Hey, just keeping the energy, keeping the vibe, giving high fives, laughing at all the jokes. Like I want it to be like a 2-man team for a bigger training group. As a branch, it's okay, just obviously just you, but just think about that as you're building your team, and for the new DMs, think about that as well. All right, welcome and sign in. Everybody signs in. They get a name tag. The terms of training and email, that it needs to be sent right away. Obviously, you cannot start training until everybody signed the terms of training. And you have to close out training before you start. If late people come in, you can edit it later, but you've got to close out training. Everyone cuts a piece of rope and leather. It's little things like this that make a big difference. Why would you have somebody go through Cutco training before they've cut a piece of rope with a petite carver? Why would you have somebody go through Cutco training if they haven't cut a piece of leather? So cut rope, cut leather right off the bat before training starts, gets the energy up, gets them fired up about Cutco. Personal introduction, pretty simple, pretty standard. You talk about yourself, make yourself look good, okay? Confidence, but not cockiness. Welcome to our team. This is where you really build up the division. This is your stump speech, right? This is our division. You talk about DVM. You talk about your district manager, what district team you're from. You talk about your office goals. This is your passionate stump speech. And then my number one job is to support you. I love this. This is my favorite thing, is talk about communication, talk about how we're a team. I'm your coach. I'm not your boss. We're in this together. This is where you really drive that connection, and you get people understanding what Vector is all about. Starts right there. Here's what to expect over the next 2 days. We basically overview what day 1 is about, what day 2 is about. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. Video training introduction. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but this is where you build up. It's the reciprocal edification, but this is one-sided because I don't have an opportunity to build you up while you're running the video training. But you just build up by Wes, you build up Drew, and you talk about how they are getting the #1 best training in the company. The best reps, some of the best Hall of Famers, some of the best CSPs in the company history have gone through this exact training. And you can talk about how many, dozens and hundreds of offices that are on this exact program, so they are getting the best training available. So the training is going to teach them the content, but then your job as a manager is to help guide them through training. So this section is very important to build up training. On the bottom, where it says, so you're going to be watching the videos, but this is not like watching a movie. This is training. You should be taking notes, answering questions out loud, and participating fully. Does anyone need something to write with? Write on. You make sure everyone's got their notes. I also really like the kind of classroom style. So if your training room is big enough and you can have like tables for them to be able to write on, take notes on, it's just more comfortable than taking notes on their lap and notebook. Okay. But seriously, I'm going to be here with you for 2 days. I'll be here to support you for support and coaching. Just like anything else, you're in control of your success. What you put into training is what you get out. Do you understand why it's so important to be engaged and intense during training? This is why we don't have you just watch at home. Training requires focus and involvement. So you succeed. Wes is the first person up. He starts with how are you doing and explains the right way how to answer the question. So you need to basically when the video starts, and you're going to press play on day 1, part 1. but you've got to make sure in the beginning that you set the tone and set the example from the start. So if Wes says, how you doing? If your group doesn't answer, you pause and say, hey guys, remember, it's not a movie, this is training. So I'll answer the questions. Let me try that again. How are you guys doing? Everyone says, fantastic, good, great, wonderful. Just like the training videos, you say, that's better. And you might have to do that a couple times. You guys may have seen the video trainings that you've been a part of in your office that some groups are totally engaged and fired up and they feed off each other. And some groups, it's like, it's just lumps on a log and they're just sitting there staring and no energy. You have to create the energy. If there's no energy there, find a way. You cannot continue training if they're going to be lame. By the way, they're not lame because of the video training. They would have been lame if it's just you standing up there too. So that would be important whether it's live or not. Some groups have energy, some groups don't, but you've got to create that. One of my most fun things about running training for over the past decade plus is taking a lame group and by the end of the day, turning them into like passionate, fired up sales reps.
That's
like
the
they
best.
come in and they're like, what's this
That's
thing
the
all
best.
about? And they leave and they're
Does that
like,
make sense?
20 demos, 10K fast start,
Yeah.
I'm going to be your next
Because
day.
sometimes you have that group that's like
what's so fun about
super
training
sharp sitting in
is
front of you,
creating that,
right? And
that
then
transition.
they flop.
All right, again, videos deliver the content, trainer
I
delivers the
love
results. Do
when I
not
take
leave the
low quality
room
people and
ever.
make them into champions because it
Don't
totally
leave the
sets a
room.
new level of
Could you text the
expectations
PR
for all of
back
your
that
top
says, hey,
quality
what's the
group.
job? Sure, your phone is right there.
You
But
go into
don't
team
leave the
meeting
room
and
to
you
do
have
it.
that one
Everything is
star
text
person,
message based if you're communicating
and they
with
just
your reps.
saw, right?
If
They
they're
just had a
checking in
3K
from
week and
demos,
you got
you
your
can get the
3-star
phone
person
number
there
of
that
another
barely
rep in
sold
the team who's better
$300.
than them, knows how to make deals. Do not leave the room. You cannot do it. This was the biggest learning curve between live
Right.
and
Would have guessed
video.
Gary was
Is
one.
that at first you're like, oh,
9
this lets
chances.
you call PR so you can leave the room and check in with reps. That was the biggest mistake we made, and that's why the learning curve was longer than we wanted to. Since we've just stopped leaving the room, we're just active in training.
I don't have
Results are
one for
through
it.
the
I
roof.
don't even have Zoom on.
Okay. You can use pause for as many stop buys as possible. So if your rep's coming in, just pause and do a quick stop by. There are plenty of stop buys in the videos. So if you don't have anyone stopping in, don't freak out. But if you have your local reps that are succeeding in their fast start, kicking butt with sales, definitely introduce them. Just make sure that every stop adds time to the videos. The videos are a set time, right? So there's buffer space in there. But if you're long-winded, if I introduce Andrew to my training group and I talk to him for 5 minutes, well, that's just 5 minutes less of a phone jam that you have now. Okay?
Did everybody
So
catch
be
that?
careful with that because
Everybody-
every stop by
everybody has
choosing
value in
the
this.
phone
Do you
jam
understand?
time. So make it
So
quick,
hitting
make it
pause
powerful.
is
Hey,
not
Andrew, what's your
the
favorite
solution.
job? Cool.
Okay.
How many
So
demos
what I'll
did you
do
first
is,
weekend?
right, I'll
Here's
try to
your
make
all
sure I
forgets. How
time
many-
my
how
stop
many
buys
would you do?
to
Any
the other
advice to
stop
group?
buys that are in the
cut
video.
pineapples, call your
Because
best
who would I
friend.
rather have
We'll
them
see you later
introduced to?
this
Somebody on a
And
video or
it's
one of
gotta
my
be
guys?
quick.
Does that make
Otherwise,
sense?
you're going to end
So
up
all of
with
a sudden
shorter
Drew's
phone
like,
jam
all
than
right,
you
and
want,
this
and that
is whatever, and I'm
not
like, all right,
good.
pause.
Examples and
introduce,
stories. So
skip,
if Wes and I
move
are
on.
giving examples,
I'm
on
not
here,
cutting
you can
time
pause
out
and
of
say,
my
oh, by the way,
names building
Amanda
list.
from
I'm not
she
cutting
just started
time out of
last
my
week.
phone
She's
jam.
$26,000
No way.
faster. So give local examples, especially if it's PR name dropping. Okay. Day one,
Yep.
part one, opening comments. This shows you on each section where you can pause, where you can start, where you can stop, where you can add things in. You don't have to. Go with your gut. Every group is different. If you have somebody that's just eating everything up and they're just totally fired up and they're taking, voracious notes and they're just, really in tune, don't break that. Okay, just press play and limit the amount of stops. But if you feel like you need to get more engagement, then stop more often. Where it says stop video,
so what's the solution
you can
is? It's
stop video and
awareness.
you
You
can
need to be
promote that. For
aware of your
example, 10K
environment. You need to
fast
be aware of your
When
energy,
Wes and I
their
talk about
energy. You
10K
need to be
fast
aware of
starters,
their focus.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and I'm going to
At all
say, hey, by
times.
the way, in the video it talks about those 10K fast starters, turn around and look at this wall. Or you can reference the ones from your group or your district team, right? You can talk about, everyone from the Colorado Springs district team 10K fast starters.
And by the way, if you want to
Same thing with first
eliminate
promotion, first weekend, a
distractions,
lot of
guess what you
offices,
do?
they
You
have like a
stand up
signing
and you
board
say,
that
great
everyone
guys,
gets
look
first
back there at
promotion,
the
first
10K
weekend,
fast
they
start
have a
wall.
recognition board, so you
Because
can pause
now
and
you
you
can't
reference
hear what's in
everyone
the
in your
background. You
office.
can only
The
hear
reason why
who?
that's important is
Me. And you
because
can also,
our friends Fred,
right, there's no
they're gonna
distraction.
have
I
people
stand in front of my
on that
TV.
list.
This is
Here's
my
what
number
we're
one
gonna do.
spot
Make
during
sure you
training
use
when I want attention.
local examples.
Make
Where
sense?
there are some things that you really want to go through and highlight.
And even that right there, you didn't miss
go with
much.
your gut.
Trust
You
me.
guys know what the
You missed nothing
key
valuable.
result areas are. For example,
So I didn't hit
phone
pause. I
time
didn't do anything.
after
I know
day
how
one
long this
training
video is.
is crucial.
I'm going to talk over.
Crucial. We
I'm
talk
going to
about
get people
60,
engaged.
90,
They
and
still
2
learn what
hours,
you need
60
to,
minutes,
right?
90 minutes, or 2
Cool.
hours of phone time. And we give
By the way,
three
if it's
options.
not
We
in
say, hey,
in
at a
this,
minimum,
you need
gotta
to
make at
write
least
that
an hour
stuff on
phone
the
call
board.
tonight.
I send out that
Most people
photo of
make 90
exactly what I
minutes,
write
but you wanna
down.
go after a big-
And the reason I
bigger
write
number
that on the
phone
board
for
is
2
because
hours. So it's
every single
basically
time I'm
same
running
thing as
training,
10,
when
15,
he
20
says
demos
something
each
like
weekend,
30, 60, 90 minutes
90
tonight,
minutes,
I'm
2
looking
hours
and I'm
of
going,
phone
guys,
time,
write this
60
down.
minimum,
You guys got
90
that?
is the standard,
And I'm
2
knocking.
hours is
I'm not
all
afraid to
status
do
for
that.
phone time. So if you set
This
that
is my
expectation
training.
the
I
first
own
5
it.
minutes of training,
And
then
my
they're
job
gonna
is
go
to
back
create
in their
your
head, they're like,
success.
okay, I'll phone for 90 minutes tonight.
You guys
I'll
got that?
phone for 2 hours tonight.
Cool.
And they're
Guys,
already
I need you to
preparing
pick one.
themselves for the
It's not a choice
nighttime
if
phone
you're
jam
going
at
to.
home.
It's a choice
So
of how
it says
long
after
you're going
Drew's
to.
first section,
So which
stop
one
the
are you
video,
going to choose tonight?
review the
Got it,
phone they
guys?
make calls tonight in training, tonight when they go home, and tomorrow morning. So you're just reviewing phoning
Once again,
expectations.
never press pause there. You
The
miss
goal by
nothing
the time you
valuable.
leave tonight is by having your best 5 prospects.
But
for the
you're going to
weekend,
remember
and
30,
it's
60, 90
repetitive.
now.
What are all the things that you want to be repetitive? Best 5 first weekend, 10, 15 demos first weekend, 60, 90 in 2 hours. Come in an hour early to training tomorrow, 8 a.m. I'll have bagels and we'll get the rest of your demos lined up. All the things that you want to repeat over and over and over again, those are opportunities for you to slide those in. Assistant manager opportunity, obviously talk about the AM positions that are available, best 5 customers, anything that you want to like really, really emphasize. You can either stop or you can say, you guys get that? You guys hear that? Best 5, like this is, and then you stop. You're like, guys, I just want to make sure. Best 5, I know Drew talks about it in the video over and over and over again, but this really is the most important thing. And so just having that stump speech and really knowing how to drive best 5, but you got to drill that into their head. Okay, people who own Cutco, I always stop the video and I say, hey, who in here, your parents own Cutco already? And I say, for how long pieces are a set? And I just want to build that Cutco ownership credibility. All right, day 1, part 1 continued, the Cutco demo. You want to be really intense with this. And what I mean by intense is that you want to be simultaneously running training like a mime. So when I talk about food to cut, you pause it and you talk about the power of pineapples. I've got 2 pineapples hanging from the wall there, and that's going to be our set sign in wall. I need that for our signatures, ultimates, and big sets. So I'm going to be talking about pineapples. I know I talked about it in the videos a lot, but you've got to hammer down anything that you want to be ingrained in their brain. You've got to repeat 3 times. The rule of 3 for really getting information in. The first time you say something and the first time they hear it, that's all they do. They hear it. The second time they understand it, and the third time they commit to it. So the first time they hear something, they hear it. The second time they hear something, they understand it. And the third time they hear it, they commit to it. So if you talk about best 5 first weekend 3 times, then maybe they'll do it. Everybody got that? All right. Virtual demos, the prompts in there, so you can explain virtual demos as well. Make sure that they're about me. That's where I would get up and I would walk in between the chairs and I would make sure that they're filling out their training manuals, make sure that everybody's engaged with the About Me section and tying them into their goals. Junk knives. Don't just let the video play during junk knives. Have some wooden handle knives to hand out. One of the most effective things for me is taking a junk knife, a wooden handle knife, and when I talk about the junk knife section, I grab out all my junk knives, I pass them around the room so I've got enough for everybody in the team. And after, it's like so gross, I'm making the junk knife face. I want to make sure that everybody in my group is making that gross knife face, the vomit face. And then you'll see in the videos, I even go like this, and I go, and then, they get grossed out. But then all I do, I always have a bottle of Purell right next to my desk. You guys see, I do the videos. Daniel saw me do it every week last summer. I take Purell,
tell them to take
go like this, and then they all stare at it. And I go like this, and they pass around. Everybody in the group washes their hands. Do you think anybody will ever be okay with the customer telling them my knives are fine ever again? No. So it's things like that you got to be creative. You got to get involved. You can't just let the video do the work. You have to be the one doing it. So passing around the junk knives, having your own examples of knives, having some Henckels and Wusthof knives that you can pass around and show. It's like, here's a Henckels knife. You can sit there and try to cut rope. Like while the video is playing, you just say,
especially for small groups, like on your desk, it's like, give this a shot.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, they hate it. It's awful.
Right? So
I didn't dull that
what
night.
can you do to make it feel localized? What can you make it feel like? Basically, it's virtual reality training rather than watching a movie, right? You want them to feel like they're in it, not just watching it, okay? So, junk knives, features and benefits. Everybody should be holding on to a Cutco knife when you're talking about features and benefits. Everybody, like pass out multiple knives. Like everybody should be holding it, staring it, feeling it, and looking at the double D edge while it's explaining on the screen. So everybody needs to be holding a knife. You can take a couple standing stretch breaks. You know, you can have people stand up, stretch out, grab a snack. You can pass around like food. And you can, just throw snacks and candy and whatever.
That's what I used to do.
Just whatever your group,
Like
whatever you
he's
think
saying
your
with the
group
throwing
would
candy,
enjoy.
I'd ask him a question.
Day one, part 2, names and uses. This is important. As I am cutting, one of the big learning curves that we figured out is that food cutting is really, really, really beneficial. There are some offices that never cut food, even in live training. I don't get that, but while I'm cutting, you should simultaneously be cutting. What I mean by that is when I'm cutting a pineapple, you should be cutting a pineapple too, and then passing around so everyone's eating pineapple. Like just the emotional connection that a rep has when they see a pineapple being cut live in the office right in front of them, and then they take a bite of that juicy pineapple that was just cut moments before the petite carver.
Do you let them take some out like right after?
Unbelievable. What do you think they're going to do on every demo from that point
Sometimes
forward?
like,
Cut a pineapple.
get it in a little bit.
If they just see it on the screen, they're going to say that's cool. But if they see you doing it in the office,
Yeah,
also they're going to say, I'm doing that
so we
too.
don't have to take a
Right?
specific
So
break.
you gotta be live. You gotta be doing the
At
same
the
thing
end of that
with
video, I'm like,
videos.
all right, guys,
Doesn't mean with every piece of food, but I would definitely have a tomato, a pineapple, and some apples and oranges. What I would be doing during that cutting, I would just be cutting up apples and oranges and passing them around. Maybe not on the front desk, but you could have an assistant manager doing it. You don't want to be a distraction, but as long as it's additive.
Like, I gotta
Feed
find
it,
where
right?
we're going.
Fruits,
you gotta
veggies, it's Cutco. We sell knives. Why would we not be using them live in the office? Okay, so the features and benefits, that's a big part of training.
Like every time.
Okay, there are a couple of value adders in here, value additions in here that KB has added in. This was another learning curve that we realized that with the videos, because we trimmed down about 30% of the content of what live training was, there are certain things that we cut out, certain value building phrases that you just want to make sure that you are, supporting. So, for example, the price value enhancement of like cutting tomatoes. If you cut tomatoes with a Cutco knife versus a dull knife, well, cutting tomatoes with a Cutco knife will save you 1 or 2 tomatoes per week. Sure, so if you save $1 per week on tomatoes, that's $52 you save for the year. Over 30 years of owning that trimmer, you save $1,500 on tomatoes. This one knife pays for the
those whole 10. You're gonna
right? Those type of value adders, like just the trimmer on tomatoes. Right? By the way, I don't save this space with 7 that because I saved that for the one that's projected at 3,000. So if you, I say heads of lettuce. So if you use the slicer on a head of lettuce, okay, a bag of lettuce versus a head of lettuce. Head of lettuce is $1, $1.50. A bag of lettuce is like $4 or $5. Let's just say you save $2 by cutting a head of lettuce instead of a bag. Use the slicer 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn it 1, 2, 3, 4. You got a lot more lettuce. It's a lot more fresh, a lot more healthy. Saves you $2 each time. If the average family does 1 head of lettuce per week, that's $2 per week. Over 52 weeks, that's $100 per year. Over 30 years of selling of using that slicer on lettuce, that customer will save $3,000 on lettuce. So this one slicer on lettuce saves $3,000 over a lifetime.
I do that and pause on every
It's
one.
things like that. So those are some things that we take out of training. So you can add those in. They're in the leader's guide. So just get comfortable and practice and role play those types of things. And you're going to see your reps just start nodding and smiling. They'll be like, gosh, my mom's going to buy an Ultimate set. This is really where the expectation of sets comes in, is some of your additive things. All right, day 1, part 2 continued. Value, competitive cutlery, and prices. You really want to make sure they're focused for this because you've got to make sure that reps just understand and get the value of $1. Some of the things that you repeat over and over. Products for the home don't cost hundreds, they cost what? Thousands. The more you get your group repeating that, engaged, and really repeating that, saying that out loud, the better. The group discussion, I would pause it. I would say, what do you spend your money on? Make it local, right? Because different parts of different territories or different areas, you spend money on different things, right? Whether it's like mountains and skiing or, I don't know what other examples I should give right now off the top of my head. What do you spend your money on? Make it relatable to the trainees, right? For us, I talk about Jimmy John's, like with how much they spend on, I know it's in the videos too, but like sandwiches. You spend, as a college student, you spend more money on sandwiches from Jimmy John's and Qdoba and Chick-fil-A. You spend more on that than somebody would spend on a homemaker set. You spend more on sandwiches than a homemaker set.
right?
Crazy.
Yeah,
All right,
like
so
burritos
the
is
more,
just a
the more you
different
get
sandwich.
involved,
It's
you give those
just- it's still
examples,
bread,
the better.
it's all
Day
wrapped
one,
up,
part three,
you know,
closing. Page 8 and 9. While I'm going through that, while Wes is going through the closing on page 8 and 9, hold up your blue book and your training manual. That way they can see where you're at. That way you're physically showing the visuals in addition to the video. Homemaker price value enhancement. This is a big one. Average student income is $3,000. Average national student income is $3,000. The average low-end family income, average income I should say, is $52,000. And in most areas, most of the customers that you're seeing, their average income is a lot higher. But let's just take your income versus the average household income, $3,000 versus $52,000. So the homemaker, $1,273, is roughly let's just call it $1,000 just for simplicity. That is 1/3 of your income. That's over 30% of your income. So if you were to think about $1,273 or $1,000 set in terms of what you earn, that's 1/3 of your income. That's a lot of money. It would be ridiculous for you to buy a homemaker. Now, what is 30% of 52,000? Well, that's 15,600. So to get the same reaction from your customers when you say 1,273, the same feeling that you get in the pit of your stomach when you say 1,273, you would have to tell the customer that the homemaker costs $15,600 to get the same reaction. So let's see what 1,273 actually is to a customer. So 1,273 over 52,000, or let's say 1,000 over 52,000, it's roughly 2%. What's 2% of 3,000? $60. Who in here would buy a homemaker for $60? Good. That's the same way of asking. That's the same thing as asking your customer for $1,273. $60 to you is $1,273 to them. Who's going to sell a lot of homemakers this weekend? Right? It's things like that. That's a 2-minute stump speech that totally changes the way somebody thinks about money, thinks about the price of Cutco and the value of the homemaker. You guys feel me on that? Good. Day one, part three, continued names list. This is it. This is training. This is training. This is a working section. You are working the room. You're walking around the room. You're checking in on their list. You're getting them motivated. You're saying, hey, awesome job. You're up to 15 so far. Great. You've got 10 of your parents' friends. You are just driving it. In fact, this part should be better than you running training live, because if you're running training live, you're at the front of the desk giving all these examples. If you're letting me do this names list and you're working with each person, you're saying, hey man, how you feeling so far? Cool. Which category is going to be the biggest for you? The more you can get engaged with each person and really drive those numbers, then you can get 50, 75, 100 names per on average per rep. Okay, so the names list is big. Big. Day one, part three, continued schedules and goals. Again, you are working the room. You want to make sure that every single person on your team in your training has their schedule completely filled out with their X's or dollar signs for their demos. You want to build value in 3 demos in the first night. Now, the training the video training ended a little bit later. It was like a 4 o'clock or 4:30 end. So we promoted 2 demos on the first night. Because training is going to be earlier, we want to really drive 3 demos. Just make sure you pause it. Make sure you talk about the importance of 3 demos on their first night. And you talk about as long as your 3 demos are 3 of your best demos, you have a really good chance of hitting your first promotion tonight, and you'll wake up tomorrow morning with a 50% raise because you're at 15% instead of 10%.
Unless you have a
So you
longer drive
drive
home,
the
and if you have a
value
longer
of
drive home,
first
then we're
night
doing 5,
demos,
7, and 9.
and you drive the value of the 10, 15,
Depending on
20.
the
So really drive 10, 15, 20. Now, we mentioned this before, but the videos, it was when we did a Thursday, Friday training, because we're doing Friday, Saturday training now, it's still going to reference 10, 15, 20, 10 minimum, 15 standard, 20 is baller. So the way we're promoting it is that it's 10, 15, 20 within your first 4 days, but your paycheck cycle ends on Monday night, so you want to get as many of them in by Monday night as possible. So you still promote 10, 15, 20 within their first 4 days, but you try to really, really enhance the Saturday, Sunday, Monday demos, because that's part of their first paycheck, okay? Because the reality is, when we were running training on Thursday, Friday, then most of their demos were in the first 2 days anyway, and then it was a little bit lighter on Sunday and Monday. So we're going to get bigger and better pop from running training and launching on Saturday versus running it on Friday, because when you have a little more condensed time, energy and intensity is higher, and the results are better. Because when they're doing back-to-back demos, then their energy, their excitement, and their passion in their demos is way bigger versus doing one in the morning and maybe one in the afternoon and maybe one at night. So if they're spread out, then there's no emotion behind it. You want reps to be back all day, every day, their first weekend, and that's when you start seeing 3K, 6K, 10K first weekend. All right. Really big is to promote the early phone jam on Saturday morning. As I said, training starts at 9. The first hour of training is a phone jam anyway, but if you get your top people, especially from the holdback group, if you get your top people to come in at 8:30 and they have 90 minutes to phone on Saturday morning, it is almost impossible to not have 10 demos ahead average, 10 or more ahead average, if you're getting a lot of people come in Saturday morning to phone. So you want everyone to have a minimum of an hour phone jam Saturday morning at the office, but if you can have that be 90 minutes or more, the best way to get people to come in early is just
30 minutes
breakfast.
or whatever. It's like, hey, I'm
Saying,
finished.
I'll get bagels and cream cheese. You meet me here. Bring your own coffee. We're ready to rock. Okay, and that's where you get your best reps for the summer, is those who come in early on Saturday morning to phone. Okay, phone approach, and you're driving it. You're active.
By the way, I am going to pause this because it's not in this. I know it. And right here before day 2 training, you need to write down, right, key staff holdback. There should be a key staff holdback every single time. I know Tyler said I ran a key staff holdback for the first time in a while, right? No. I'm doing a key staff holdback. Like I'm doing well, you could put it as Champions Club, whatever. What I'm talking about is you do the key staff holdback on the first night, but I invite those people in for a breakfast the next morning.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Oh,
So just to be clear, yes. So where it says holdback, right? I run that holdback, but part of the holdback at the end, see where it says come early for day 2 breakfast? Okay. I say, hey, by the way, invitation, not obligation. I know it's late notice, but here's the deal. If you show up tomorrow and meet me here at 8 a.m., A, I'm going to have some breakfast and bagels for you. B, I will give you about a 10 to 15 minute message where I will teach you 5 keys to going after a 10K fast start. And C, I will actually show you examples of paychecks of people who have shipped 10K so that you know how it breaks down and you can do it too. Now, if you're not here, hey, no big deal. Be here as early as you can, but no later than what time? Exactly, 8:45. But if you can be here, you guys wait to go to school. And what time does school start with? And all my high schools are like 7 a.m., 7:10, 7:30. Cool. Well, if you can make that happen, you can make this happen. And I realize it's a Friday night, guys. I realize you want to go out and hang out with your friends, but I'm asking for one Friday night that could set you up on a path for financial success and security for the next 3 to 5 years of your life. Would that be worth it? And this is my holdback, don't forget. So I only have my best of the best cream of the crop, and I'm setting the expectation for them that if you work hard this weekend, it's an interview. You show me that you have the work ethic and the drive to go out there and rock it, I will go ahead and personally coach you for the next 7 days, and I will do everything on my power to guarantee that you hit 4 promotions, you make $2,000, you get a 300% raise, and get a hand-signed letter from the CEO of the company. Is that fair? Are you in for that? Great. I hope to see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. And at that point, it's just like, great, high fives and everything like that, and they take off.
Or instead of hope, I'll see you at 8 a.m.
Or if you still have questions about going after something bigger than a $10,000 fast start, I've got about 5 to 10 minutes where I'm going to be cleaning up and wrapping things up. Feel free to stick around. And that's where you can know the difference between the interested ones and the committed ones.
Yep.
And that's where I've got the ones that stick around and they're like, hey, so tell me about what the record is again. Tell me about this. And that's where I build a little bit more of a relationship. And I kind of challenge them, right? Remember at SLC when you heard about the training message about giving a little bit of the push away? Right, I forgot who it was, but it was, or maybe it was kickoff. Yeah, McCall, right? That was summer kickoff or fall kickoff.
Flirty.
And McCall was like, be flirty with him, right? It's like, you can't do that. Can you do that? I don't know if you can do that, right? But it's giving a little bit of that. So they're like wanting to prove themselves, wanting to step up, and you're setting that expectation. Make sense? Okay, cool. All right, let's keep going. We're doing great.
If you're role playing, make it fun. You got to be in the room, making sure they're following the script, really driving it the right way. Phone jam with pizza or snacks, high energy,
Yep.
all about relationship building.
Also,
You
that
are
morning,
in the
you're
room the entire
reminding
time.
them
You're
to follow
working
the
with
script.
reps,
Hey,
you're
guys,
driving
when you
their
get on the
best vibe,
phone,
you're
don't
checking on
forget
their
to follow
demos,
the script.
checking on
Don't
their goals,
forget to ask
and
for
making
2
sure they're
times,
calling their best people,
right? Handle the objections, ask twice.
helping them with page 31.
We make
calling
assumptions that
friends
reps
their
know
parents,
everything
get
that we
parents'
know.
phone numbers.
They know none of what we
really,
know, and they
really
don't even
important.
do what they
All right,
do.
Phone Jam PC gives you tips and guidance on driving their best 5.
Are we doing phone jam PCs? And when we say that, that's not
Doing the
pulling them into an
assignments, again,
office.
60,
That's just
90
making
minutes
sure
and
that
2
everybody
hours,
gets a
minimum
one-on-one
average
conversation.
phone
About,
time.
hey, how'd
The
your
more
phone
you
time go?
repeat,
How many more
reiterate
games
the
did you
phoning
have?
expectations
Right?
for
How
that
did this
night,
morning go?
the
Cool. Who
more
are your
they're
next
going
best five?
to
Who are you going to book? Do
adhere
you
to
have
those
your best
rules.
two for tonight? Oh, you
All right,
don't?
day
Dude,
one
you got to
hold
get
back.
those.
Who should you be holding back?
Quick,
Anybody that's
30
gonna hit
second
first
laser
promotion
1
first
minute,
weekend.
right?
Anybody
PC
who you think
conversations.
will hit their first promotion or should hit their first promotion their first weekend, you should hold back. It could be a certain percentage or it could be a certain number. Sometimes I've done holdback groups where I had a small group in training, but I really liked all of them. And I was just honest with them. I said, hey, usually at this point, I just take the people that I really think could crush this job. And I talk to them about going big. I'm having trouble deciding who that would be because I think all of you can crush this job. So let me tell you about going big. And I'll do the holdback with the entire group. I've done that. I would say 25% of trainings that I've ever run. That's what I've done. And then sometimes it's a little bit of a lame group, and I only have like 1 or 2 or 3 people, and I hold them back. But it's all about people to increase their expectation, driving their phone calls that night, and confirming that they're going to be there early tomorrow morning, early the next morning for phone jam before training starts. So the holdback is a simple promotion. You can be as creative as you want with this. I like to keep it short and sweet so they can get home and start phoning. But it's all about setting expectations for phone calls. Check-in PDI. So training ends at 6:30 on Friday night over the summer. Check-in PDI is from 8 to 9 p.m. So this is where they're going to call and check in, and they're just going to let you know how their phone calls are going so far. Regardless of what they say, everything's positive. Hey, you had a crappy phone gym? No big deal. Let me tell you about this person. So-and-so, they got one demo booked up.
So here's
on
a good
Friday
thing to
night
write
because nobody
down.
was answering
You
their
should
phone.
have a
This
story
one
for
did. They
everything.
came in next morning at 8 o'clock.
Nothing
They got 15
surprises
demos
you.
booked up on Saturday morning. Ended up being the
Everything you
number one
have a
person
story
in training
for.
class. So give examples to make them feel comfortable, but the check-in is so important. I always have the reps put an alarm in their phone by like 8:15, 8:30, just so they remember to check in. So before they leave training, I say, hey, bring up your phone, set an alarm, say, call Drew, and that way they check in. But I want that 1 hour
I do
block on
9:30.
Friday night where they're just calling and checking in. I'm just sitting at home.
If you don't call
and,
me, I'm
just
gonna
taking
call
calls
you.
and getting
And
people
tell me
excited for
how to
training
call
the
you.
next day. And I'm even talking about things like their fast start. It's like, hey, what do you think you should go for your fast start? What are you most excited about? It's part of the relationship building too. So checking PDI is crucial. Some managers do text messages. I always find that a phone call is way more effective. So you can do a text message check-in. I just think that live phone call allows you to really manage their emotions and manage their expectations the right way. So an hour check-in. If you have a big group, you can have somebody help you out with it, but you should be able to do it on your own. All right, day two. Again, all supplies ready to rock, ready to roll. The sign-in, everybody cuts a penny. I also would put in there peeler and carrot. If they can come in the next morning, they can cut the penny and they peel a carrot with the peeler. Gosh, their product conviction is through the roof. So the more cutting, the more action, the better. Make sure contracts are filled out, parent contracts for 17s. Make sure you close out training. The phone jam breakfast, 45-minute phone jam is part of that. Okay, you're building rapport, you're driving sales, you're working with reps, you're doing their one-on-ones, going through their schedule. Introduction to day two. Pretty simple, pretty standard. You're building up expectation and getting them refocused for the videos. Sales rep agreements, sample kit agreements. For sample kits, I always like to pause that because Wes talks about the importance of checking the sample kit and not stealing the sample kit. But just pause and say, hey guys, listen, this is my first business. I'm a college student, and if you run off with my sample kit, the company charges me. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's cool. I spent a lot of time training you and helping you out. If you don't want to do the job anymore, no big deal. Just don't steal my sample kit. So make sure that they realize that it's you. This is not like Drew and Wes's sample kit. This is Keegan's sample kit. This is Jacob's sample kit. So make sure you really reinforce that that's your consignment.
Don't do it.
Okay. Fast start. Build up the fast start. Now, if you wanted to, if you felt really good about doing your own fast start prize promotion,
But they
could
do
you
the
do
fast
your own
start on
prizes
day
and
one
promote
now.
your own prizes? Sure. But if you're going to let
They
the
do the
video
fast
do
start
it,
on
which
day
I'm
one
going
now.
to, I'm just going to be nuts in the background, and I'm going to be taking all those
I go
prizes and
crazy.
taking them out of the display and passing around and being like, I'm going to pause and be like, you
I
have
run
no
around,
idea how
run
cool
around,
this is.
I throw the knives at them. I don't throw them at them, but I make
Because if
sure
they're just
everybody
watching,
touches
they're like,
them.
that's cool, I want to win prizes. But if you're like passing them around and you're showing like the with the ice cream scoop, if you have a freezer, if you have a freezer in your office,
By the way, we shouldn't be running
and
time.
you could do the ice
like,
cube trick with
you know what I
the ice cream scoop. those things
things
make a
happen.
big difference.
Pausing the
Okay,
video
so
too much.
Here's my
really
point,
get
though.
engaged.
If you are
Dropping
behind,
down
you should
flatwood
know that you're
cookware
behind
accessories,
by 5
show
minutes,
everything.
way sooner,
When Wes shows,
to know
you know,
where
the
you can
galley
cut
set on
5
the screen,
minutes
you're
out so
showing
that
the
that doesn't
blue.
happen, right?
When
So in other words,
he's
what's
showing
the
the
priority
cookware,
of
you know, if you have a
items,
sample
right?
pan,
Like
pass it
phone
around.
time,
You want them to be touching
meaningful
and
list,
feeling as much
prices, you know
Cutco
what I
as
mean?
possible on
I
the
even
second
noticed
day.
that, like,
You
when
want to
we
be
got to the
active and
prices,
moving and
people were
walking
so
around the
much
room,
more
passing out
willing to
Cutco
film
the entire
cars
time.
that night because it was on video.
Correct. And that's, yeah, and I've seen it too. That's why I said.
So we're
Okay,
but that's
the
again
knee-jerk
cutting corners.
reaction
We're shooting
This is
ourselves in
something
the
you
foot when
really
we
want to emphasize to
put it
make
off
sure the
or
reps are
whatever,
dropping
it's
down
on
the
the
right way. And adding in with dropping down. People buy Cutco from you because Cutco rocks, not because you do a flawless demo, so go slow. The biggest complaint, this is a big one, the biggest complaint that we get from Cutco owners is that they didn't buy enough because the rep rushed through or skipped the rest of the demo. Seriously, that's not a joke. Our entire CSP team program is based on these missed opportunities. All they do all day is upgrade customers who only bought a few knives. They live off of reps who don't drop down slowly. That's my stump speech for dropping down, and that's why all of our reps never skip a set, because they don't want Curtis and Robert and Michael to settle all their customers because they only bought 2 pieces. Okay, so really emphasizing those keys. Okay, you guys get the idea for the rest of these sets. Be a broken record. You know, say the word sets a lot. Best 5 first weekend. Things for the house don't cost hundreds, they cost thousands. The more repetitive you are, the more it gets in their brain. Virtual demo, recommendations, pretty simple, but again,
Doesn't
be
matter
in
what
the
you
room
show,
so you can
like, so
show,
what?
be in the room so you
Like
can tell
nice.
examples. You know, talk about virtual demos, who's the rep in your office that crushes
you
virtual
try. We
demos?
do want you to
Just
try.
being able to say,
But
hey,
still,
Brenton sold $6,000 this summer through virtual demos so far. Press play. Like, it's just little
You know,
nuggets
I
like
tried
that to build
taking
conviction and
Damien's
credibility
tip where
and
he
make it
said,
more localized.
incorporate
Recommendations,
virtual demo
Greco
at the same time.
videos,
And it's just a
unbelievable. Just
little
make sure they're
harder
role
because,
playing,
like, I
you role
only
play
have
with
one
them.
TV. And it's hard to
PR
put that
program.
the
This
training in the
is
full
you.
screen.
It's at
Yeah, you probably
42:52 of
did
that
that,
video is the testimonials. When they are when it's going through the testimonials at minute 42:52. You're going to email the PR app to the training class. So that's where you send the link. That way it's in their email so they can download the app and submit their PRs. You're going to do that at that portion of the video. Use examples. Tell stories. Promote the PRs from your office. Show the tracking boards. Show the prizes. This is where you do your work. This is where you make your training worth it. Is building on that training group, the next training group, and that's exponentially growing your team. So really dive into the PR program. This is where you're saying, hey, can you do me a favor, Sergio? Can you give me all your names? Like, I know you went to a big high school. I know you're a track star. You got 1,000 friends. I'm not asking for 1,000. I'm just asking for 999 of them. Is there any way that you can unleash your entire self? So, and this is where you're like, and a lot of times I'll just go and I'll like crouch down. I'll be like, hey man, you would really help me out. If you could just recommend everyone, like even if you don't think they'd be interested, you can recommend everyone. It makes such a difference to me. Can you just use your flow? It's gotta be so you have group promotion. You gotta have that one-on-one individual promotion as well to really get. That's where that percentage of names from conveyor or from the phones. You want to be in like 70-80% range of names collected from available names. All right. Next, order writing. You're going to manage duplicates during order writing.
Do you guys have them
Manage
do the
duplicates during order writing.
practice order on Vector Log?
Before they do deals, before we do deals in order writing, you're going to have them log into Vector Connect, create a password, and then do a quick order for them just to enter and get used to it, depending on time. If you had a longer phone gym in the morning, you don't have time for that, that's okay. The video is perfect for order writing. But if you want them to log in and create their password, right away in training, that way you don't get a call right afterwards saying, what's the website again? So if they actually do it in training and they click on Rollo and they try to start filling it out, it's helpful just with their confidence. Not necessary, but it can help. Okay, schedules. The neat enhancement that we made with schedules is that they will create their entire 10-day fast start schedule and goal during this section, so they fill out the rest of their fast start. That way you know and they know what they're shooting for. They've got a goal, they've got a daily demo goal, but make sure you're working through them so you can see their schedules. That way you know who you really are targeting for your 10K potential and your top reps. Office communication.
Everything.
You want to, obviously the video does a good job of it. It talks about checking in prior to 10 a.m. So it's check-in, before your first demo or by 10 a.m. at the latest. You just want to reiterate that over and over. Say, if you check in by 10 a.m. If you demo earlier, call earlier. If you just want to chat earlier, sometimes I might call you before that because I'm excited about your goals and your success. You need to check in before 10 a.m. and then after every demo. Okay.
Just get them more excited about.
That's communication guidelines. Make sure that they get the sheet though. So when we talk about that, make sure you have those handouts so that way they're reading along. Because in training, we're just following the guide and it shows all the PBI rules and regulations. Day 2 part. Oh, by the way, it's a great opportunity to just give examples of all the top reps in your office and how many times a day you talk to them. You can already go. Today during my fast I talk to my manager literally 10 times a day.
That's a good tip.
Literally 10 times a day I talk to my manager. She was able to help me out with my goals, help me hit it faster. You want to overwhelm me with phone calls. The more we talk, the better you do. That's a fact. And you just have to keep on reiterating that and setting the communication expectations. Demo review, you're going to do it with them. So just have fun with that. While I'm doing the video and I'm acting like a crazy fool on the video, you should be reading along, having fun. Like you should be joking and laughing when everybody's like flustered and they they're losing track because I'm going too fast. It's just all about so just enjoy that section.
I just sit up there with them and laugh about it.
Success and choice. This is the stump speech in training that you want to get good at, practice and role play
What are you
with
doing?
your
Look
peers
at
leading up to the
Look at
summer.
your manual. You're gonna lose your spot.
It's the success and
Right
choice.
into
This is
it.
from
And they're
Danny Feldman,
I don't know where
and
I'm at.
one of
It's
the
like
best PPR
Montreal,
managers
right
of all time. I stole it. I did pretty well with PPR myself. So this is really important. We cut this out of the training videos just for time reasons.
The other thing is, if you're running behind on day 2, what goes to race first? Well, the demo review. So now you're throwing them out there to do their first demo and they've never actually done a full demo complete. Are you kidding me?
Said success and choice. There are a couple
unacceptable.
stump speeches
Be late,
at the end, the 5
I'd rather
before,
be
5
late,
after,
right?
best 5 first weekend.
Than them
We also
fail.
talked about in the videos, but it's important
And I
for you
tell
to be
them that.
familiar with those. That way
Right.
you can repeat. That way you can just kind of reinforce those things with 5 before, 5 after, and best 5 first weekend. The wrap up on here. This is the day 2 PC. If you didn't get a chance to meet with every rep during the phone tip at the beginning of the day, you want to make sure
Word for word.
before they leave, you really set the expectations
Don't use
for their
Wes.
sales. Get them
I
excited
don't
about
use
your
Wes to
demos,
set
talk
assignments.
about what their
I don't use
confidence
Wes
level
to
is
read
with their
this.
customers,
Nope.
and really set their
After we've talked about
expectations for
communication
big-time
guidelines
sales,
and we've talked
set
about your
sales,
first weekend
and hit
schedule,
their first
and we've done the full demo review, I do the full demo review.
So-
Congratulations, wrap up your stuff, pack it all up.
That's
Great.
training.
I've got a couple last things you need to hear. And at that point, I am ripping this thing, in the real life. And I've got this thing memorized. Like I can role play it if I need, but and I've got it down. Here's the only other thing that I'll put in your opening comments, right? Okay. And this goes into the end of training too, right? This goes into every day. Okay. All right. So before we dive into training, guys, I just want to let you know, and this is like right before we start the videos, that I am more committed to your success than I am to the amount of time that it takes me to get you that success. Therefore, training, on average, lasts about the times that we've got for you. But at the end of either day of training, if I don't feel or you don't feel like you've gotten everything down, I'm committed to sticking around until you do feel comfortable that you can succeed.
I'm more committed to what?
I am more committed to your success than I am to the amount of time it takes me to bring you that success. So if at any time, right, after training doesn't end on time, it's not a big deal to me because I don't get paid for my time. I get paid for my value. And my job is to bring you the most value and get you the most out of this job. So if we're behind on training, I'm going to stick around late to make sure you get everything this training needs to offer. Or if you don't feel confident at the end of training tomorrow to go out there and do your first demo, I'm committed to sticking around and working with you until you do feel confident to go out there and get there. But it's my job over the next 2 days to take your nervous anxiety and to make it confidence, conviction that you're going to be able to crush this thing, and I'm pretty good at what I do. Are you guys cool with that? And then they buy in. So what am I really doing there? I'm buying myself permission, if I need to be late later on. And it's not a surprise at that point. And then when I get to that point, I can say, hey, by the way, guys, I know we're running a little bit late right now, but I'm unwilling to cut out this section because it's so valuable. So if you've got an issue with leaving about 5-10 minutes late today, that's fine. Come and talk to me one-on-one. But honestly, I'm committed to your success, and I've got to make sure that we train you right. Are you guys good with that? Okay, awesome. You only get trained once. Everything you need to know to be successful is going to be presented during this training. Cool. Got it? By the way, this video is at the top of your risingsundivision.com, right? When you log in, you can click it. You can rewatch it. You have all the tools you need to know to be able to be successful. And every time you run training and you don't improve your skills from the previous time you ran training, right? Well, that's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So that's part of us leveling up our leadership, right? That's part of us understanding that part of being a leader is working harder than everybody else. Part of being a leader is making more sacrifices than everybody else. Part of being a leader is putting the time and the energy into the preparation, right? That's not easy. These documents that we make, right, these programs that we've developed, they don't just come out of nowhere. They don't come out of thin air. Think about how much time it's taken to write the manual year after year after year and improve it. Think about how much time it's taken to put together the leader's guide. Does that make sense? And you can look at Drew and Wes and be like, damn, they're millionaires, which they are. Okay? No joke. Like, there's no secret there. Both Wes and Drew have over $1 million invested and saved, 100%. Probably more than that. Right? Didn't know that, right? Like, you want to know big ticket items? Well, Lloyd owns over 10 different properties and homes. I don't even know how much money that guy's got. He also owns 5 different businesses. John Carpenter's invested in 4 different businesses. Like, do you understand their level of influence and their level of leadership? But they didn't get there, right, just by showing up. They got there by taking time out of their free time to study their craft, to improve their craft, to enhance the programs, to make them better. Does that make sense? And you know what? You're not paid for your time. You're paid for your value. And so when you can take your time and you can really get good at a program like this, then what kind of value do you deliver to your group? And based on that value, what money are you paid? And that's the difference from being in survival mode, right, where you're worried about paying your bills, and guess what? Having a ton of money where you get another bonus, you're like, I don't know where I'm going to throw that one. What do I do with this one, Nick? Right? All my bills are paid. I'm already paid up through the next 2 months. What do I do with the next? Good problem to have, right? And I've learned in life that you're always going to have problems. So getting rid of problems is not one of my goals, right? But learning how to better handle problems, learning how to be more prepared for when they arise, hey, that's a definite goal, right? And that's something I'm committed to. Cool? So we got our last 10 minutes. I'm going to bring Bailey up. Pretty much everything I was going to talk about in the training seminar best practices has been covered. I'll hit on a couple of things if we have time, but Bailey has been amazing this fall at getting first weekend pop. And not so recently with a couple of the training classes we've had, but I've never seen somebody conquer, right, the transition between a summer and a fall as well as Bailey had. Not even myself. And we have never had that type of comeback, right? And I just want to remind you what happened, because we're less than 6 months away from a summertime again for everybody in here. I hope you're aware of that, right? And so we're in a place where, guess what, right? We in June, right? We had a decent SC1, and then we went in July. And in July, we had like a 10K week, an 8K week, a 4K week. It was awful. It was awful. How do you tab as a pilot office $4,000 in July, one of the best months of the year? But then we had a comeback, and we did 30, right? And then we did over 30 again, and then we did 20. And then we never dipped below $10,000 in new business for all of August, did $100,000 in August, and that led us to over a $50,000 September. We're the #1 office in new business for the month of September this year in the entire United States. Now, recruiting helps, but you can't just recruit. You got to get them to sell, right? And for the fall, we've had a $2,000 PPR for the entire fall, and this guy's been running all of the training. The last training I ran was last week because he got sick. But prior to the last training that I ran before that was all the way back, right, in July. I just want to be upfront about that. So there's nobody better to deliver how to get that first week in pop than Bailey. He's obviously got these things figured out, right? And guys, as goes Fast Start first week in sales, as goes their career. That's the bottom line. Because how many people are quitting and giving up on the job way too soon? And if you just got them to hit their first promotion, they'd give the job a shot for 1 more week. And if you just got them to sell for that week, they'd stick around for longer than their Fast Start. And that right there means that our overall division PPR goes up by $250, $300, possibly even $500. And I want you to think about this. If we can get our division PPR up by $500 next year and not recruit any more than we had this year, we recruited 900 people. And we were down in recruiting. So 900 recruits right, times 500 extra in sales, who wants to do the math on that? No. $450,000 with no extra work. Everybody got that? So this message is worth $500,000 in sales, not including the growth and recruits that we have next year as well, because we're all going to be better at that too. Got that? So 10 minutes, Bailey's ready to crank, ready. Oh, I need to stop share because we are done with that. So let me see if I can, well, it's a recording, so that's what I really care about.
Makes sense.
Let's stop the share. There we are. And here we are, still recording. And I don't know why it's trying to do that. Lovely. All right. Well, back over here. I just don't want things to be formatting issues or anything like that. All right. Sorry for those of you on the recording. We apologize, but here is Bailey to wrap things up. Kick butt. Let's give Bailey a big round of applause.
Beast boy.
Awesome, guys. So, like you said, a couple things that just I've been doing is, like they said, is just following this right here. But 100%, it's just about the relationships that you build with the people, 100%. And that doesn't just start from here in the interview, but it starts on your PR call. It starts how you're talking about training and how you're building it up, and just the expectations from your interview as well. And so, in my interviews from, the last couple weeks and everything just moving in forward is, I'm opening up, and not only am I developing managers for my office, I'm developing managers for this office. And so really really specifically targeting people that, hey, we're not just looking for reps, we're looking for managers. And so really building into them that they can really do it. And so, and it all starts on the phone call or starts in the interview room, from how you can have them go from, just like Patty talks about, it's a game, and you have people sitting in there like, maybe I'm not interested in this. And then by the time they're just like, wow, maybe I definitely want to do that. Like, that is something that I could take to the next level. And so just really taking them from having not very much belief into having conviction and belief into everything that you are doing. And so, yes, I'm talking over all of the videos and putting in what we're doing and how we're doing it, and just talking about the stories, like nonstop pointing at the boards and saying all of these people. And then even the ones that aren't on here, it's like I drop Anna's name 8 times throughout the entire training, just because she's the most consistent. She's going to be the #1 rep. Well, she's #2 right now behind Zane, but #1 rep in everything that she's doing. And it's just having that expectation, having that level of a high level of integrity for yourself, and not committing below the standard. By the way, the last couple weeks, you guys can tell that I haven't been really producing or really going out there. Well, it all matters on your why and what you're doing. And, if you don't have a why, you're not going to work. If you don't have a motivation, then you're not going to put in the work forward to doing it. And so, dumbing it down, just like Alex Mazurek says, $1,000 is simple. Like, you can sell $1,000 in 1 demo or in 3 demos. It doesn't matter, but everyone sells $1,000. And building that conviction into every single person. And yes, you want to focus on your top 20%, and that's what the holdback is for. So you're getting all of them. But in the group section, it is having them set the standard for everybody else with your top 20%. So, if I've got Zane and one other 10K fast starter, yes, they're going to set the tempo for the rest of the entire training. It's going to be, yes, I want them to have literally the most experience and ready to go out there and ready to crush the sales, but that also increases everyone else in there. So if you have a low flyer in there, they're going to be like, dang, I want to definitely be like Zane and drop a signature first set out of there. Or, even if they only make 1 sell, they have that level of belief that the program works. And the best stories that are is, Gracie going into her first demo, read it word for word, and she comes out and calls me and is like, you guys are right. If you just read it word for word, people buy. And it's right? We telling you guys that. And you guys all know that as well. If they read through the manual, they believe, then that's what's helping them. And so if they don't have trust in you, they're not going to want to sell. They're not going to want to call you. They're not going to want to go out there and do all of the demos. So they've got to trust you. How much belief are you talking about your story and your journey through Vector? I love being able, the beginning's like, guys, this is my favorite part of training because when 2 years ago, I was in that exact same chair as you. And by the way, I tried to quit twice. And then they're like, wait, the guy who's training me tried to quit twice, so it's okay for me to think about quitting. And it's like, it is, but we're not going to let you quit. Just like Nick said, we have the success. I'm going to say it wrong, so I'm just going to look at it before I even do it. All right, I am more confident to your success than the time it takes to getting you that success. And so, of course, I don't say that, but they can tell that I'm 100% there for them. It's also getting them to events. How many of you guys, if they don't come to Advanced Training 1, they are basically lost unless you're getting them to come into the office on Wednesday. Isaiah, he basically was up and out. He finally called me on, and that was Nick's training. He called me on Thursday and was like, I've just had a lot going on, but Friday I'm fully available. I said, cool, I will see you at 2 o'clock because that's the first time that I can get into the office. And got in, and we spent 2.5 hours going over all of Advanced Training 1. And he's all like, if I had this, I would have sold on the last 3 demos. So getting them to events. We all know, yes, the events like this, every one of you guys are like, man, this is exactly what I needed. This is exactly what I needed to hear. So how much belief in your office and in you that you have that you can go out there and get every single person to their first promotion? And even if you can't, the low flyers, getting them to 500, them selling 500 is like a high flyer selling 3K in their first weekend. And so no matter what, dumbing down 1,000 and easy and getting them to events and really building it in. Also, getting their friends on. And once they get their friends on, they're not going to quit because it's like, dude, you're on and you're succeeding. Like, I can totally do it if you're doing it. So you've got to believe in those people more than anything. And, I definitely do it as well. Calling through the 3 stars, the 2 stars, and the 1 stars. There'll be times, and just being honest, where I have not called a 1 star because it's like, I'm losing. It's like, that's not worth my time. And, I needed to hear that today, and that's an extra 500 CPO that you can add to your week on the sales report. Or, what if they're the one that you did judge and they're the ones that sell 3K in their first weekend? Morgan Myers was definitely a big example of that. We kind of didn't think that she would sell 10K. We thought potentially, and then she goes out there first weekend and does 3K and goes off to sell 10K out of the ones. And who was that? There was Joe Honer was the other one. And I don't remember who's the other one in that one, but someone that definitely looked like they could have went and had a 10K fast start. So don't judge people just by who they are, and really believe in them. Or where they live. And really believe in who they are. So exactly, and you've got to also target your training. So, there will be trainings where it's like a lot of low flyers, or, like you might not be as excited, but how much more belief can you believe in them if they go out there and do the right steps that they're going to sell $1,000? And I had that, 5 weeks ago, and I had 3 people in training. Well, out of those 3, 2 of them hit their first promotion, and the other one made 1 sale. And so no matter what, getting them to get that first sale, because that's the biggest thing that's going to turn everything around for them. And then letting them know, like, first weekend PDI on that Saturday that you launched them out, like, are you talking to them 3, 4, 5 times that night? Even if they don't have a demo, you should be talking to them 4 times that night just to make sure that they're booking demos to getting out there. Whether they have something scheduled, it's like, cool, well, I want you to do a demo before you have the, winter formal, if that's what it is. Or make sure you have 5 demos or 6 demos going into Saturday as well. So then you're making up for that lost time that you lost out on. And so do you have their entire plan built out? I know, like you said, you only do up until Monday. Well, that doesn't give them the entire 10 days to be like, hey, I'm fully prepared and ready to go after 10K. I sat down with Nikki, and, she's had a lot of just family problems. Her phone got shut off and everything like that. But she's got 4 appointments set up on Sunday. She's got 1 tonight as well. And so it's just building in. Hey, things are going to pop up.
She's already got 2 friends set for the big days.
Yep, 2 friends, and she's got, I think, 5 more that are set up for interviews. So whether she hits 10K or not, she believes that in the vision that we are building, that she's going to be the next manager, and her friends are going to be right there with her on building it in. And, you know, you can look at all of the success that we had, and it is getting friends of friends onto the team. You know, Danica getting Anna and everyone else on, and then Anna building onto it. You had Zane getting 5 of his friends on, and all of his friends, you know, there's only one that's not here out of his friends group. You know, Nikki's got her 4 people that she's coming on with as well. And so the best people come from those. Also, are you targeting social media? I didn't realize this, and Patty brought it up because I'm starting to get better at looking at reports on Vector Live. On social media, we've launched 4 people, and the PPR for that is $10,000 a piece from social media alone. So we know what to do, you know, we know the action steps, but are you doing it? Are you, you know, are you going to have that fear-based mindset? And, you know, I'm a little bit afraid of success, and I'm not going to lie, but, you know, the more that I do it, the more. And I called my mom yesterday and just was like, hey, I don't know if this is right, how I'm feeling. And she was just like, I hope you know that everyone here in Guyman is excited for you. They're ready to either do an appointment with you, sharpen up their knives. They're giving you filing cabinets. We've got people that are looking for desks for you. And sometimes that's all you need to hear is calling that one person and saying, hey, you're doing the right things. And you're that one person for all of your reps. Hey, you're doing the right things by making calls. Whether you're getting the result or not, you're doing the actions that are going to lead into you having $1,000 a week. Or you're doing the actions right now that are going to lead into you having a 10K fast start. Even if you don't, you're putting the action step, and that right there leads into every habit that you're going to build. I got a haircut today, and he worked for 10 days. I think he stole the sample kit, and I didn't get it back from him now that I'm thinking about it. And he was like, the one thing I learned was just the confidence of promoting myself out there. He was like, you know, and I'm so glad that what you did for me and was just getting me out there, and now I can cut hair, and I've got people from OU calling me and people from doing this. And so, guys, we do change lives. And are you wanting to change the people's lives, whether that be selling, you know, 500, 1,000, 10,000, but it doesn't matter. If they make that sell, you're helping them in every single day life with the time management, the goal setting, and helping them out and everything. So go out and change lives. Yeah, I know I will.
Nugget. All right, cool. Well, guys, I appreciate that. Wrap up to our Leadership Academy before we dive into our PR Blitz right now is a few assignments. Did we gain a lot of value out of that? Yeah. Okay, and I don't know if you know this, but the pilot is currently in the top 10 in the pilot race for new business sales this year. We're over $600,000, best I've ever had in my career, and 400,000 of that has come from PRs. I hope you know that. Right? So you take that away and you make me bankrupt. You take that away and you make me homeless. You take that away and I don't have the ability to live the lifestyle that I live right now. Does that make sense? So, what does that teach us? It teaches us that we manufacture what we want. And we're 100% in control, right, of what we want. But we have to go out there and get it. Cool? So some assignments to write down. If you have not been keeping up with your assignments, look back through all the Leadership Academies and especially the recordings. But a few things for you. First one, you need to make your winter break sales plan, right, with a daily detailed schedule. I'm talking about when do you wake up. I'm talking about when do you show up. I'm talking about when you get on the phone, right? And that's more for people that are not veteran managers, but also vets. You need to know, right, what are you doing every day? How do you plan to build the second week's training class to be able to launch at least half, if not 100% of the same amount you launch in the first, right? And things like that, okay? Also, spring goals, whether you're a rep or your manager, spring is literally 10 days away. That's like you leaving the summertime, right? And waiting until what? 1 week before it's September to figure out what you want to accomplish for the fall. I know it's a lot going on right now. And yeah, this transition between fall and spring, and really not fall and spring, but fall and January program was one of the most challenging. But you know what? If you don't know what your week-by-week recruiting plan is and your week-by-week sales breakdown is going to be for the spring, you got to figure that out. And I'm becoming much more aware of that. I got to move a house. I got to move an office. I got to open up new offices. I mean, that's all happening in the next 4 months. And I got to do that around a snowboarding trip, right? Year-end banquet, a trip out to Cayman Islands, Puerto Vallarta, right? Also Yosemite for the CSPs. Life doesn't get easier. I promise you that. It just gets more complicated. Doesn't mean it's not more fun. Doesn't mean it's not more exciting, right? Or more profitable, but it does become more complicated. There's a lot more moving parts the older that you get. There's a lot more responsibility the older you get, right? So if you don't get your you-know-what together now, when are you ever going to, right? Now's the time. Cool? All right. Last big one here is if you haven't run a training before, you need to, right? And of course, register for Year in Banquet. We're about to do a PR blitz right now. We're about to do a big promotion of signing up for Year in Banquet, and then we're going to do my wrap-up, and we'll finish up. We got a holiday party tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I really am grateful and excited to build this thing with y'all, and really, really impressed with what we've been able to accomplish so far, and even more excited about what we'll be able to accomplish moving forward. So we'll stop our recording.